So in any second it can go, it'll be live. So just know that. We're not talking privately anymore. Okay, hang on. Let's see. Let me make sure it's come on. There it goes. All right. So we got Facebook, and I'll tag you on the video when we're done. And there's YouTube. Let's see here. Find YouTube. And what's the other one? X. Okay, yeah, there you are. All right. Kacie Aileen Knight. Yeah, here we go. Cool. Okay. All right. So let me just get back to where I was at. All right, and get this off of here. There you are. Okay. All right. Well, here we go. Today is what? Friday, May the 30th, and I'll just say 14 years uh, and 12 hours ago, about 12 hours ago, I had my reawakening experience. So I just want to cite that for myself and for the record. But today's not about me. It's about Kacie Knight. We came together because of that post I put up in late January. I said, does anybody want to have like a real discussion, away from the clickbait and all the other stuff? There's plenty of platforms that can do that. And then, of course, I had all these people hit me up, and then I did a few, and then I went back to that, a couple months later and said, hey, do you remember me? And you're like, what did you want to talk about? And I said, well, basically just have a real conversation. He said, okay, I'm up for that. So yeah, the energy felt nice. And I just want to say thanks for coming in and stepping up and showing up and coming in to share space with all of us so that we can get to know you and see what the coding that you offer, because I know that you do. We all do. But thank you again for coming in. I look forward to the next hour, or so, and we'll see where it goes. But thanks.
Thanks for having me. I absolutely adore having conversations and just seeing where they're going to go. So this is my vibe. I'm ready for it.
Awesome. That's awesome. Now, where are you located? You're in the mountain time zone?
I am. I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Oh, okay. You're Canadian. Okay. All right. So you're in Edmonton, Alberta. I know it's nice and warm up there, isn't it?
It is. Yesterday was the hottest we've had all year.
Oh, really? I was making a joke. I thought it
No,
was
actually,
cold.
well, I mean, it was 30 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but I mean, it's warm.
Oh, that's warm. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like 33 over here today. I mean, yesterday. I don't know what it is today. There's a little bit of cloudy overcast. All right. So how did you end up here? Where all these crazy people hang out? Did you go through the same kind of general evolution that we all did? You were born, you had something when you were young. It got suppressed as a child or maybe as a young adult. You went into the matrix. You had a wake up experience through probably some traumas. You decided to walk a different path. You were kind of ostracized by your family and considering yourself crazy and what's happening, and probably had visitors and what they used to call imaginary friends and so on. But you're still here and you're still carrying the banner of this almost undefinable movement that's occurring and has been occurring for a long time. But yeah, how did it all get started for you? Where would you want to start?
You were close, but I am a little bit of an outlier because when I was just 8, I had a very mystical experience where spirit came to me, engulfed me, and was like, you're going to be a spiritual teacher. And so at 8, I already had enough ego though to be like, what? No, 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 that I'm just a kid. You've got the wrong guy. Because I went to a Catholic school. We'd just been seeing the crucifixion of Christ, all of that. I'm like, I don't like what they do to spiritual teachers. Let's not. But it came
Mm,
with this vision of speaking on stages, having a global impact. This was pre-internet because I'm 42, so that did scare me a lot. But it came with this sense of love, deep love, inevitability, that feeling of being held by the divine. And then I spent the next many years kind of ignoring it, but keeping it in the back of my mind and going on a
Now
personal
this is from
evolutionary
this
journey.
is from and this is from 8 years old. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It was something I did not tell anybody about, but I was always deeply connected to spirit, but also
Mm,
kind of disassociating into spirit because I did have a rocky childhood, as so many of us do. And I remember always just knowing it's going to be okay when I'm an adult, everything is going to be different. And I was very much present, but not fully present as a child. I spent a lot of time in the higher realms
okay,
just
okay.
coming back when I needed to.
So this experience that you had at 8 years old, I'm just going to take a stab at it. You were having the difficulties prior to it's and after this incident at 8 years old.
Mhm.
The disassociation seems to be a characteristic that many people, particularly healers, carry. And I think that we all kind of come to the conclusion that that was them getting their connection stabilized and
Mm.
really embedded for future use. But just out of curiosity, 8 years old, and it was that impactful. And we all have it different ways. Like what happened to me 12, what did I say, 14 years and 12 hours ago was a light appeared in the trees behind my house, and the face of the cosmic Christ appeared and started talking to me. Uh, I've heard many different over the years, 4,000 plus shows. I've heard many different versions, but I'm just curious because it's such a young age to have that type of impression that never left you. How
Mhm.
did that experience go down?
It was more of being engulfed in the most divine, white, pure love that just wiped away every sensation of the human struggles and the weirdness and just was like, it just feels like home. I'm sure you felt that energy many times. And it was just
Yes.
sharing all of these very multidimensional codes. So I was always very clair sentient and claircognizant, but sometimes I
Right.
also had the clairvoyance and clairaudience. This was all of it. This was pure, like
Mm,
just being immersed in almost in a video game, but it's more real than anything, right? And I was being shown visions. I was being hugged and like realigned and healed and just feeling so much love that reminded me that everything was going to be okay, and also
right.
planting all of those seeds at the same time.
Now I'm again just to try to I'm staying with you. I got you. And I'm thinking, okay, well, you're 42. So you'd have been 20, 20, 21, 22 as we started to approach 2012, which really seemed to be when everything blew up. Um, and I'm thinking that you probably didn't say a lot of didn't share a lot of this because there wasn't anywhere to share it, even for the people that, were waking up in the 80s and the 90s. But did you start to feel as we approach 2012 or even any other time and date, did you start to feel like, oh my God, all this stuff they've been telling me is starting to come true? And there are other people out there that I'm starting to see that are coming from the same place?
Yeah, well, I think the math is just a little off because I was more in my like late 20s around
Late 20s.
2012.
Okay. Right, right.
So I knew about the ascension. I knew about all of these things. I had been studying non-stop healing, philosophy, spirituality, all of those things basically my entire life. And
Mm,
I thought that 2012 was going to be more of a global revealing, right? But it turns out it was very personal. And I think for a lot of the way showers, that's how it went. And we had our own personal apocalypse.
right.
And I actually, on that like December 20th, 2012 day, I was working as a professional hula hooper and circus artist. And I had been
What?
performing. Yeah, that was my first business. I was
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah.
So I was performing at this video game company Christmas party. We had, with fire eaters and glass walkers, and we're performing. We knew somebody there, and I actually had to leave early because of what I thought was like food poisoning. But it turned out to be an intense purging that had me on the floor of my bathroom, physically purging as though I had just been to an ayahuasca ceremony or something, laying
Wow.
on that floor, but completely covered again I was in connection with my team. They were like, "You're going to be okay." They're just sharing the codes. They're like, "You just need to get all of this out of you before walking through this doorway." And then, yeah, it was a very personal next, 7 years of getting ready to be able to do the work that I do now.
Wow. So 2012 to God, that's so weird. When you started talking, my time is on your time. For some reason, my computer doesn't pick up the local time, and it was 1:11. And
Oh, of
then,
course.
which by the way, yeah, by the way, is 1:11 in the morning is when I had my experience 12 years and or I'm sorry, 14 years and 12 hours ago. And then when you finished, the time on the stream was 22:22. So there's no mistakes. But going back to what you were saying, so you spent the next 7 years, I guess 2012 to 2019, cleaning your shift up. And I think you make a good point because I think if we look at that time period, give or take, for many of us, I know there's people like we had a young lady on yesterday that was pretty extraordinary, 26 years old. Her wake up was in 2017, so we know that the chronological part of it doesn't really carry the weight that it used to because we're in a quantum environment. But you spent 7 years. That sounds very serious. Now, were you healing people or I'm sorry, were you practicing your healing modalities and such during those 7 years, or did you actually have to go through those 7 years first?
I was already teaching and performing and doing some coaching and healing. So it was a combination of deep
Mm,
study.
mm.
And also, I was doing more group facilitation, connecting people to their mastery and to their flow through movement. So, doing a little
Wow.
less healing and more empowerment and getting people into their bodies while I was learning how to really listen to my own and really did a lot of study and practice for my psychic gifts and skills and just leveling all
Okay.
of that up, cleaning out the body, learning. I had been a raver, I had been exploring different.
I was going to ask you if you'd been to a few raves. That was a big part of my early awakening
Right?
at 49 years old, going on to the underground raves and everything and dancing. Yeah, the movement thing, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I started in 2000, so I had a lot of that
Mm,
rave fleur Pleiadian energy that felt like home. But there
yeah.
was a lot of that utilizing substances for me in a very shamanic way to explore consciousness.
Right.
But I was
Yeah,
given
absolutely.
after that purge this direction of like, okay, I'm going to spend the next year listening so deeply to my body, which turned into a year of,
Mm,
sobriety and really exploring things without all of the extras. So
yeah.
and a lot of different layers.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's something to be said for that. I mean, everybody, I think it's such a humbling experience. Um, sorry, but that old saying of stay in your own lane, like mind your own business. There's many ways up the mountain, however you want to put it. But one thing I have noticed within myself, and in talking with others like you, is that there is sometimes an evolution. Like certain things bring you to the party, so to speak, no pun intended. And sometimes you get to a point where those things that got you to a certain place are no longer going to come with you, or even I would say this, like in terms of plant medicine, I pretty much stepped away from everything. It's not that I wouldn't do psilocybin, should the opportunity come, a light dose or something, but it really feels like that the experience now carries a lot of the attributes of a lucid dream at times. I'm not saying all the time, 24/7, and also that type of opening, of the field or of the crown that those things can assist in. Are you still working with plant medicine? Is that part of your modality?
This is really interesting.
Mm.
Yes, but not in the way that someone might think. So I left behind, and let's be real, it wasn't just plant medicine. I was doing all kinds of chemicals and like MDMA and things like that that
I'm
were
with you.
also experimental, but reminding me of so many different
Yeah.
frequencies. But I work and my energy alchemy modality, I work so deeply with Gaia, and we bring people into these consciousness altering ceremonies without using
Mm.
plant medicine, but they're like plant medicine. And I just recently realized
Yeah.
it's because she is plant medicine. She is the
Right.
alchemist. You don't need to be ingesting something. She can share those codes and frequencies and shifts in consciousness herself.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. If you're merging, or guess what, to the greater degree that you merge with her,
Mhm.
you're merging with yourself in a greater capacity and taking on the a bit, the attributes of her, which you're right. That is, and anyone that's done ayahuasca and other, and even and to include the synthetics, because MDMA is if I know for myself and for a lot of people, that was a real gateway opener. I'm not recommending anybody do anything, do your research, but I remember going to, because when I started my awakening, I was also had gone through a lot of traumas, as many of us had, and part of that was being in the system and being on probation. And I went to a 90-day outpatient rehab, and we had to watch like 2, 3 movies every day, and in 90 days, so it must have been like 150 movies. Don't do this and don't do that. And this is what, but the only 2 shows or 2 movies that I saw in that rehab that were actually speaking of the positive traits of the particular substance or chemical was marijuana and MDMA. It was a fascinating feature about a couple, and she was no, he was passing of cancer, and they were like late 30s, and they documented their MDMA treatment because as the trauma of the cancer was affecting their relationship and their connectivity, they were losing it. And so they filmed them 3 times taking MDMA and having conversations on it. Was the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. It was incredible. Um, but yeah, so anyway, I got off on a tangent there. But so I'm big on rituals. I think you mentioned ceremony.
Mhm.
It sounds like that. Now, what you're doing, is it a localized thing? Are you doing it on the internet or both?
It was all local, but Spirit also came to me before 2020 and was like in the solstice, actually, almost exactly 6 years ago next month. I
Uh-huh.
had another experience with Spirit coming in that multidimensional way, giving me a prophecy and said, stop working in person, put down the hula hoops, and come online. You need to be available for people undergoing a spiritual acceleration. And so
Uh,
I figured out how to bring my business online over the next 9 months. And
okay.
then, the pandemic shut down all the in-person work, and I've been working almost exclusively online since.
And this visitate or this experience was last year, you said? So that's when you
No,
started making
almost
the,
6 years ago. Six
oh,
years
six
ago.
years ago. Okay, I
Yeah,
got you.
on
Okay.
the solstice of 2019, in June
Okay.
2019.
Well, there's that.
Sum it up.
Yeah. Okay. There's that seven
Right,
year
right after
period,
that
right?
7 year.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Yeah, 2019 was a big one too. I mean, all these
Yeah,
years have been a big one. And
yeah.
speaking of that, yeah, so I mean, like, well, for one thing, I've most of the people I've run into, the vast majority of their work and the vast majority of the people I've run into over the years on the show have been doing their stuff on a virtual basis, occasionally in person, doing retreats and stuff. But you kind of have it the other way around, and I think that's interesting because there's a lot of inverse kind of polarities that are kind of, showing themselves as they shift back and forth. I was looking and I haven't looked in a long time because I kind of took a break for about a year and a half after 12 years. And I looked at the demographics of the platforms that I've been involved with, my own page and so on. And I noticed that there was a inordinate amount, like if I looked at the top cities, They were all pretty much in the Southern Hemisphere.
Mm.
Australia, it was really, really, and it's such a small population compared to, let's say, the United States market, Canada, UK, and such. So there's something to be said for that. So you kind of came in from the other direction, and so how did you make the conversion to the virtual sessions? Because it sounds like on the localized sessions you were using movement, and I'm just got this picture of you, like, get everybody on Zoom and then you step back a little bit and start doing the hula hoop.
I had to drop the hoops when I came online, but I had already been
Mm,
studying and initiated as a priestess, healer, belief repatterning practitioner. I had ways of working with energy and with people without the hula hoops. So while sometimes I will get people up and dancing, over time I really brought through my own modality that is much more a ceremony that can be one-on-one or with groups where we are going into an altered state of consciousness. We're
okay.
working with sound frequencies, using the intention, the imagination, and not doing energy work to people, but always inviting people to walk through it themselves to
Okay.
clear and clean out distortions, activate DNA. I take people on crazy trips, basically soul journeys, quite often, working with their team, working with Gaia, going beyond healing. We'll heal and clear and clean, but I love working with healers who are ready to go further and then really work on that etheric DNA activation and mastering their soul gifts. And my work then evolved into really supporting entrepreneurs in really making that leap into being able to scale their own business and master their soul gifts and share more of their magic to support the world and be abundant. So I actually created a few different certification pathways where I'm teaching people how to do what I can do, including in-person group and
Mm-hmm.
one-on-one facilitation, because I did have 20 years of experience doing that in a variety of ways first. So yeah, it's very full circle.
Wow. Wow. Now, a lot of people have, and I've gone through it myself, and some people close to me. Um, and and I don't have the exact dates, but I'm going to say that from the Lions Gate in 23, uh, 8/8 through the 11/11 portal in 2023, there was something went down. Like we began to cross the threshold, or move into this other paradigm or something. And then 24 being a lot of deconstruction, shedding, releasing, letting go of things that may have been a huge part of our evolution and service over the previous 12 years. And all of a sudden, we get popped out the other side, and the communication's different, the connectivity's different, everything's different. There's a higher than telepathy aspect. There's the a higher rate of what I call physical synchronicities. I mean, there's a whole different thing happening very quickly. Did you notice that with for yourself and or with your clients that are also practitioners?
Absolutely. And I thought part of it was a personal thing for me. When I went into my 42nd birthday portal in December of 24, it was a
When's your birthday?
December 5th
What?
of
I'm December 9th, so we're both
oh,
Ophiuchus or whatever you call it.
Sagittarius.
Yeah.
Yeah, or yeah, I guess if you're going with the other one. Um, yeah, my soul energy went off to go get new codes. It was in
Okay.
crystal cities and different dimensions and different star systems that I was only partially conscious of. I could go tap in. I had like no energy and I knew I was going through this void. There was so much releasing. Two of my cats, my soul cats that were 14, they passed away. I had to move. There was just all of this releasing, and I was not the only one. So many of my clients, I'm sure you and everyone you've talked to. And then there was this landing. And for me, it wasn't anything new that was coming through. But I know for
Okay.
certain people, there was a lot of new energy. For me, it was like validation and confirmation and deeper level embodiment of what I was already doing.
Right.
But there was definitely space made and created for us to bring back whatever needed to come through now.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really have, I don't claim to have it figured out. I actually wake up every day knowing that I know nothing, and that's kind of how I start my day. But one, I think recognizing patterns has obviously become very useful for all of us, and so
Mhm.
I'm not quite ready to put my finger on this yet. But one of the things that's been coming through the last 3 or 4 weeks, slowly and subtly in this new paradigm energy, has been you guys did it. Like you came here to do what you came here to do, and you did it. So let's just say that was, just to keep it simple, 2012 to 2024. The modalities, the platform, if it's what I've been doing or whatever it is. And then it all gets stripped away. And now I'm kind of hearing a faint voice going, okay, you already have the template. You already
Mhm.
know what you're having an affinity for, a natural innateness for. Everybody has their own piece of the puzzle. And now that you've stripped off all the egoic and the old constructs from the old paradigm, now you can move forth and start to build from what you have, which I was
Mhm.
like, wow. So, and kind of in synchronicity, I would go back like on Facebook memories and I'd look at, what was going on because I find that to be very helpful in terms of like the energies that are present at a given time, like this day. This day is a very important day for me because it's the day, 14 years ago, 12 hours ago that I was reawoken. But and what I noticed was that as an example, again, not as a literal so much, even though it's literal, but as a metaphoric, energetic example, to take an old piece of prose or poetry or song that I'd written, and then to come back and rewrite it
Mhm.
and bring it up to the levels of awareness and alignment that we've hit individually and collectively. So something like that, do you find yourself kind of there's a common thread with what you're doing now, with what you've been doing those previous 12, 14 years?
Absolutely. I feel like the last 12, 14 years were all very experimental, figuring out what worked, what
Mm-hmm.
didn't work, honing skills. And now, for me personally, and I've seen this with a lot of my clients as well, it's this clarity about how it all fits together. Not everything comes forward,
Okay.
but building that next level embodiment first is what's coming online, and then we'll be building whatever it happens to be, the program, the platform, the academies, or whatever. It's going to look different for all of us, but I feel
Yeah.
like there's now a weaving, right? Like this, it all makes sense, like why you went through this and why you went through this and how you can teach or bring it together for people in a way that's not as separated or compartmentalized.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and and another thing I feel, and again, I haven't spoken to enough people, but I've picked it up from other people, and I certainly pick it up with myself every single day.
Mhm.
Is that the little pieces that are connecting as you wake up and start your day. So it was about an hour and a half ago, or maybe 2 hours ago, you sent me a note and you said, "Hey, I'm looking forward to seeing you at noon Mountain Time or 1 o'clock Mountain Time." I'm like, "Yeah, me too. This is cool. I'm gonna have a show today because I've only really been doing one a day when I used to do like 3 and 4 a day." Um, so it's a whole different thing, like you were saying. But anyway, right after that, I went to YouTube because I got a notification, and there was a note from a longtime listener, and he starts telling me how he's been sailing up and down the Pacific coast of Mexico for the last 8 years. And then during the summer months goes to Shasta or Sedona or different places, him and his wife, right? And he said he would, because on the show we were talking that he was commenting on, we were talking about the abundance factor, security, stability kind of thing. And I feel like that's another big piece of what we're starting to get acclimated with and create on the other side in this new paradigm. And he's actually going to come on with me in about 3 or 4 hours, just kind of an impromptu show, and we're going to talk about it. But how has that worked for you and your clients? I mean, has there been a struggle? Over the years, we've seen everything from, I do everything for free to I'll take donations to I'm going to charge $400 an hour. And I'm not saying any of them are right or wrong. I'm just saying there's this whole giant landscape or palette that we have, established our content. What does that look like now? I personally feel like abundance is a part of our makeup, and that, naturally as we align with ourselves and then what we need comes to us. But where does that stand with you and your clients? Where do you see this at now, and where do you see it maybe going?
I love this conversation a lot because I see the pockets of where people are at energetically, where they're like, ugh, money, gross. We shouldn't have to deal with it as spiritual beings and the whole gambit. And I also believe, like you do, abundance is our birthright. And it's actually a frequency. It's a new earth
Mm,
frequency or whatever you want to call it. And
mm,
in that frequency, you are connected to everything and you can access the quantum, you can access information, you can access people, you can access funds, right? And money is a frequency. We have to be open and available to being supported. And the
mm,
frequency of scarcity and separation is that old paradigm where we're disconnected, it's survival, we don't have enough, it's a fight. And I think
right.
part of my work is to bridge people from the old
Mm,
paradigm to the new so that they
mm,
have the energy to do what they're here to do. Because I think when light workers, healers, whoever, the transition team, I like to call them, when we are abundant and we have enough money, which is energy and power, then we can fund the projects that support people and support the earth. And I think I spend a lot of time reprogramming people's belief systems and their energetic fields where they don't feel safe or comfortable having money, holding money, any of those things because of
mm,
old, outdated self-sacrifice programming, poverty consciousness that I think was installed to keep us from having
mm.
access to the power we needed to actually shift things on the planet. So I have a whole
Yeah.
membership literally called the Abundant as Fuck Lightworker so that we can rewire and recode this stuff so we can live in abundance and actually do what we're here to do and have some fun with it.
Yeah, I had that conversation with the universe last night. Hey, I'm gonna have some
Yeah.
fun. You know what? Um, and let me ask you this too, and thank you for that answer, because I feel like that's a big part of that whole receiving thing is huge. Last year I pretty much took the year off and had a connection
Mhm.
with a really benevolent, beautiful soul sibling, and it kind of culminated last year and was gifted to a great extent. And the reason I bring this up is because it wasn't although it was such a gracious act, and there was so much that came from it, being able to reunite with my wife and to pay for, coming to Mexico and just so many different things. So, but it wasn't so much the literal gifting. It
Mhm.
was I think three meetings that we had, and in person. We'd never met in person, and it was kind of like almost like an initiation, where the prominent feature of it was feeling worthy to receive. And
Mhm.
this sweet soul taught me something, because they literally said, "This is an equal exchange." And of course, I'm
Mhm.
like most light workers the last 14, 15 years. I don't have a savings account. You just go from day to day, and we're creating the code that's gotten us to this point. But the thing that I just want to drop here is that it became so apparent to me to accept this incredible energy in the form of the material resources that was given, and to kind of subordinate that to the actual energetics, both ways. It was incredible. And so since then, I've always been kind of a gratitude. I wake up in the morning. I usually spend anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour doing gratitude affirmations, and I find that it's very helpful. And I feel like that's a big part of that that walk across that bridge you're talking about. I'm curious as to we don't have to get into all the nuts and bolts of it, but how much of a factor in your teaching, in your modality, is the gratitude part of it? And are there any other major components that you can point out?
Yeah, absolutely. And first, just to go back to that open to receive thing, what a gift. And that piece around open to receive is a nervous system thing as well,
Mm,
right? When we don't feel safe to receive, we put up shields and the divine can't support us. The energy can't get through. So much of the rewiring that we have to do is to actually feel safe enough to even let in the support, because so often we just block it subconsciously or
mm,
consciously because we don't feel worthy or it doesn't feel safe. So that's so cool that you got to do that. And I have seen so many light workers receive support and gifts and when they needed the time to rest and recoup and relax. I've seen it. I've
right.
had it happen to me in different ways. And there's so much of the worthiness stuff that comes up. We're like, who am I? And it's like I can see it so clearly from my clients. I'm like, you're important. The work you have to do is important, and you need to rest and heal and recover so you can go on to the next part. And it's so
Yeah.
amazing. But I also feel you. Like I've made probably in my career or even in the last 6 years, almost $500,000, and I have reinvested almost every penny into my business, my education, my team. I have nothing physical to show for it. I don't own a house. My car is falling apart. Like I wear holy socks and underwear,
Right.
but I will pay
Right.
my team well, and I will keep reinvesting in my education so that
Yeah.
I have the energy and the ability to do the next leg of the mission that I know is
Yeah.
going to be
Yeah.
so fully abundant. But the
Yeah.
gratitude piece is key.
Yeah.
Gratitude brings you out of the frequency bandwidth of separation and lack and scarcity into the frequency of abundance.
Yeah.
And if you take it even further, a big practice for me and the trainings that I do is to have a party in the name of gratitude and actually celebrate it.
Mm,
I
yeah.
mean, it
That's
is
it. That's
how
it.
oh, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. No, 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 there's a little bit of a lag. I wasn't trying to interrupt you. No, I got you. Yeah. It
It
reminded me of,
is,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's actually how I train my facilitators because I have a practitioner pathway, how I train them to start their sessions, to coach people into being grateful. And if they can, actually celebrating something that they don't have ick with. It's not a celebration, but because it brings their frequency and their availability energetically to possibilities instead of where the problems are. Right? If you're
Yeah.
focused on the problems, you're not in gratitude. If you're focused on the gratitude, the celebration, you suddenly have access to the whole quantum with all of the infinite possibilities and all the magic.
Yeah. 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 Because, I mean, I think, things are changing, but I do believe we all, because of the conditioning that we had and the multiple experiences we had, there was uh, it was easy to overcomplicate things.
Mhm.
And so, when I started on my path, I guess, in earnest, I was about 22, and I used to read a lot, like two, three books a week for years and years. And some of the first books that I started with were self-help books, like a Think and Grow Rich, and Power Through Positive Thinking, that type of stuff. And I took on a practice with one of those early books, and it was to simplify change, and it was like replace replace a habit you don't want with a habit you do. So I found, and I think that's probably when I started working with gratitude affirmations, because if I was focusing on my gratitude, and for each and everything that I had, the little things, the big things, and made it a practice, and there was less time I was focused on what I didn't have. Not that I didn't focus on what I didn't have, not that I didn't have lack programming and all that stuff, root chakra programming, but yeah. So I think it's important. I feel like it's important. To be grateful. I mean, first and foremost, to be alive. Because the truth
Mhm.
is, you can't prove anything to me. I've had plenty of dimensional and non-physical experiences, and you have too. But we don't know. We don't know. We could be worm dirt when this is all over. period, end of story. And we wouldn't know any different. But by the same token, where we go from here could very well be based on what we believe in the direction we're headed. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a really um, extraordinary kind of thing to try to put together because we're not living in that box anymore. So it's pretty wide open. Um, I was going to ask you too, now, in terms of like bridging into the new um, into the new world, let's just say the new Earth or whatever, 5D, whatever people want to call it. I'm reminded of there's an old movie. I'm a bit older than you, but it was one of the Raiders of the Lost Ark with Harrison Ford. I don't know which one it was, the Temple of Doom or something, but there's a scene where he's in like an underground temple or something, and he has to walk across this I don't know if it was like a fire or lava or something, and there's no steps. And so every time he would go to make a step, a stone would appear, right? And
Mhm.
I kind of feel like that's where what we're doing. It's like nobody really knows exactly what the structure is. It's actually formed, and therefore we're creating that new universal code in the spontaneous moment. How is it for you? How do you get your modifications and directions for the guidance of your teachings as the landscape is altering so quickly?
Sometimes it feels like things are evolving so fast, it is hard to get your footing, right? So I absolutely think that we have to create the stability internally instead
Mm,
of looking for it in the outer world. That's a big thing that I've had to work on and share with my clients, and then get really, really aligned on our axis and with our team. So we're basically unfuckwithable
yeah,
regardless of outer circumstances. And
yeah,
we can get some codes, we can get some vision about where we're headed, but it is learning how to walk in faith with that. You take the step and then the next step
yeah,
appears, because
yeah,
we have to navigate through the unknown because it is being created and written as we go. It's like we're coding it as we're being in it, instead of like the old programming, the old code felt like it was already predetermined.
yeah,
So I feel like we're
yeah,
now writing it as we go, exactly as you said.
yeah. Yeah, I love what you said because yeah, you're so a couple things. One, yeah, I mean those first 12 years per se were these templates and these memories and and channelings and so on, and this is what you need to do kind of thing. But to me something changed because to me it's been a part of the shift has been the understanding that it's not just what we're pulling in here. Now it's come out to what we're uploading
Mhm.
in a different way. Because I mean, they were always getting that information from us, but now it's actually something that the boots on the ground are actually doing. And so I love what you said about I can't just go out there anymore. I mean, you can, but I feel that it's a conversation that can be had in an openness to say, maybe that's got to go too. Maybe that doesn't mean that we're going to disconnect because the fact is it's all in here anyway. But I
Mhm.
guess what I'm saying is, and we were talking about this last night, is that ultimately the human being, thought, word, action has to walk the fucking talk. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think that's really not just in terms of the abundance frequency, but also the equity frequency, the
Mhm.
kindness frequency, the mutual love frequency. It's like, when I look at you, and you look at me, we understand responsibility, accountability, conscientiousness of a quantum thought reality. So if I think you are lesser than or greater than, then I'm projecting that onto you. And just because you're another soul, or you're more animated than the flower pot behind you doesn't mean that you're not affected, right?
Mhm.
So it's a real interesting game changer, and like you said too, it's changing so fast. It's just like
Mhm.
it's like that's what I was saying, like how do you I mean, I used to schedule like 5, 6 weeks in advance, 2 to 3 shows a day, and now it's like, I'm going to put up this post, see who comes in, and try to get only new people I don't know, and I'm doing like five in 6 days, or that type of thing. It feels weird. It feels strange, because like an old part of me is going, well, the more I do, the more contributions people will send, but you can't do it for that anymore. You have to have the faith that nature is much bigger than just the wind and the trees and the ocean. It's actually you and me and all of this unseen energetic frequencies and vibrational resonances that we have and that we're starting to get familiar with and take command of. It's a very, very powerful transition we're in an opportune time to be here, I think. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have a friend that says in this new grid, especially as entrepreneurs and business owners, we can't be building like we used to because that's how the old grid and all of that programming worked. She
Yeah.
just says there are no rules, only resonance.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we can't plan far out because we don't know what's going to resonate with us and with the earth, more than a couple weeks in advance. You can have a general idea, but it's tricky to plan far out because things are shifting and changing so much. So
Yeah.
that flow and resonance are the two things that are guiding me, and just being able to move with whatever needs to shift without losing your shit, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and yes, that's another good point too, because ever since I reawoke in 2011, I always heard, because you get all that information, they'll give you all this information, like what the hell do I do with this? Oh, you'll
Mhm.
figure it out.
Yeah.
But don't whatever you do, don't do what you've done before. And like many things, it's gotten bigger and taken on more meaning. So this to me is like a perfect example of what you're talking about. Like it's not just in the way we transact, you might say, for lack of a better word. All right. It's also has to do with, like you said, feeling, the resonance, and also the way we respond. So, like here's another example. Yesterday, for the first time, I had 2 shows on the same day. And I woke up in the morning, and the first show was about this time. And I got a note from the person, and I'm not throwing shade on anyone or anything. I'm just making a point. And so if you're listening, highest honor to you. But so the message was, and this is my point, the message just said, I cannot do the show today at such and such time. And that's all it said. And so I looked at it and I said, for a second, my human came in and I thought, well, what does that mean? Like, am I supposed to say, do you want to change the time? Or that was it. It was very, very simple, succinct. And I just put okay with a heart and I let it go. Now, I know that sounds kind of trivial and sounds kind of, just simplistic or simple or silly or whatever. But I really feel like that's happening to us too, that, as these things, the conditioning and everything was embedded within us to a point where we couldn't even see it. Every time we would have an activation, we'd see more and whatever. But I really feel like that's where the change is being made. And you could say cellularly or atomically within our body or however you want to put it, DNA. But it's those little things that the human practices what they preach and walks the talk that are actually making this thing work, which is crazy and sounds insane considering all the divine episodic, events and situations and experiences that we've all had, for it to come down to the mundane human thought, word, action, where the true mastery is. And if you think about it, that's the only thing that we didn't come into this game with. Everything else we came into this game with, and so yeah, it's a weird, strange place now. It definitely is. So what are your plans? I know that sounds insane. What direction are you heading? Do you see anything for yourself in terms of what you're feeling? And if you would at some point, you can do it now or a little bit later, on us collectively. How do you think we're doing? Where are we at? What do you feel like's coming? And I know predictions and prophecies and prognostications are pretty much going out the window now, but what's your gut feeling for yourself and for the collective?
Mm. There's still going to be so much separation and polarization that just keeps
Mm,
growing and growing. And I think we have to really be okay with that and surrender into it. Those of us that are connected to the divine energy and we are in this faith and trust and we've been doing the work, I really do think there are so many rewards that are coming for us because it's like the shifts are finally happening now, especially if you can tune
yeah,
into the divine frequencies and the divine energy and not the global energy, because that is a freaking chaotic mess. And
yeah,
I think, are being called, and myself personally, to really like hold space and honor where everybody's at, but also I know for me, I'm dropping the energy of convincing or even
right.
healing or trying to help people who are not wanting, willing, or there yet. And I am redoubling my efforts and focusing on the people who get it, who do have the resonance with me. And we're just going to be freaking flying into so much magic and mastery and miracles, and at the same time navigating, I think, massive shifts on the global scale where there's going to be more disasters and geopolitical mess and all kinds of things where we might get disconnected from the internet. We might have experiences where we need to co-create with our neighbors. All kinds of supply things could get disrupted, not to put anyone in fear, but just to prepare to be in community more deeply. So I think that
Yeah,
those two things are happening at once, right? Where it's
yeah,
going to be a mess, but it's also going to be so magical at the same time.
yeah. I mean, it's something that's, it's just so full in terms of the potentials. Like, so what you're
Mhm.
talking about, and this is one of my things I have to look at because I'm always like, let's do it now. What are we waiting for?
Yeah.
And I realize over time that's just my little thing. I've got to like, I've got to open up to, not resisting what you just said because a lot of people will say, and I remember years ago people saying, oh, it's going to be 2037. It's going to, I'm like, bullshit. I'm not waiting that long. But there is a common ground, right? And I feel like that we've got to be open to, because we don't know. I mean, it was what we've had five solar flare predictions in the last 7 or 8 years that hit social media and everybody, okay, it's coming, not to take anything away. And maybe it happened in some way. We don't know, or how, whatever, or maybe the earth split. Maybe that's another thing. Maybe you and I and people that might be like us are going to be walking around in Forrest Gump bubbles and be impervious to the distortion and the distraction. Who knows how this goes? But again, I really feel like it's coming down to the little things. And like today is another good example. And here's the intel writing us like a book, like you're just turning the page every day. So I'm getting the message from you. I'm talking to this gentleman that's going to come on today. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is all cool. And then all of a sudden, and we haven't had a lot of this. We've been in a new place now, I think 3 weeks, and the power goes out. It goes out once, goes out again, goes out again. I thought, oh my God, maybe I should send Kacie a note and say, and then my soul just came in and said, wait a minute, you don't have the greatest internet, but have you had a lot of problems? Has it been like a situation where you just can't do the shows? No. Well, then just let it go. Right. And I haven't had any glitches on this show, which, you know what I mean? So we don't even know, the lightness of our being is in itself carrying these attributes that you were speaking of, such as the abundant frequency. Like it's a
Mhm.
natural thing. So it's like if you lighten up, there's all these parallel attributes that come with you without the old school, I got to take this course, I got to take these steps. I mean, you're actually doing it. And it's more from that feeling, that intuition, that spontaneity, that higher telepathy, that magic, the miraculous, what we would call it with the humans. But yeah, it's it's this is my favorite thing now is to talk about what is happening right now. You know,
Mhm.
the stories are interesting, but what does it look like? Because this is the best information we could get, you know, really, in my opinion, is to have a conversation with two or more people and open up 360 degrees or to the best of our ability and see where it goes. Thank you for this. And
Mm.
thank you for stepping up and showing up. I was going to ask you, oh yeah, yeah. So on a personal level, like, and that's another thing. So we all had these dreams, like I'm gonna, and then we got our downloads, which, you know, you mentioned the ego at 8 years old, and then we all, yeah, right. We're all subject to the human condition, and even those things had to be let go. Not to say that you're losing anything, because we know we're not losing anything or anyone or whatever the case is, but like, what do your dreams look like now compared to what they were? Uh, and I know you kind of talked about this a little bit, but you're still pursuing the same things you were pursuing. You're just pursuing them in a different way, I guess, is what you're saying.
I am more convinced than ever that the work that I do, which is deep embodiment, connection with Gaia, and all of these things, is so valuable. And before I was just kind of like, everyone can kind of do this stuff. No, they can't. That is what I have learned. So I have been feeling this call for a long time that I actually really need to be way more like confident and clear about my messaging and just be like being more visible and not hiding the way that I have been hiding for many years. And that's been a slow process. So for me, it is to continue doing what I'm doing, but being gently attached to that and just saying like, spirit work through me, put me where you need me. And also I know that I can continue to teach and to share and to just be a little bolder and louder about
Yeah,
the
yeah,
truth that's in me because I used to fluff it up to try to make sure it was palatable to people who weren't in
yeah,
resonance. And I'm
yeah,
done with that. And I also have, like, on the personal side for my business, these dreams and plans of getting off, like some of the platforms I'm on and, creating my own app with my own spiritual academy in that. So it's not tinged with other energies, like, some of the groups that I run on Meta, on Facebook and things like that. I'd like that all to be in my own energy so it can be squeaky clean, so
yeah,
there's just some things like that where it's practical and tangible and I'm taking that action while I'm also just being like whatever needs to come through like what I'll do that
yeah.
you know
Well, yeah. And I think, and I'm included here. You used to say a lot in the before was like, you got to own it, you know, you got to
Mhm.
own it to the bone, you know, in your bones. But now to me, like with listening to you, it's become more of uh, a gracious, humble, I'm comfortable in my own skin. Like I know what my piece of the puzzle, or I'm learning to know better what my piece of the puzzle is, that I step into the arena and give it another shot, you know, like because even if we try to stick to a schedule or stick to the old patterns, the universe is coming in and just kicking our ass. And you know, I mean, like I've been saying the last few days, it nudges you, then it kind of pushes you a little bit, and then it shoves you. Like, no, we're not doing that anymore, you know?
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you talked about having your own piece of the puzzle because that's exactly it. And I know now, like this past 6 months really clarified it for me what my piece is. And of course it can grow and expand, but I know the mastery that I have. And I know through the last 15, 16 years now of teaching it, how impactful it is for people. And I have that
Mm,
evidence. So my confidence now doesn't come from just like, oh, I need to own it. It's like I've seen it in action and I've seen how helpful it is. And so if I don't show up and share more broadly, then I am, not being of the service that I can actually be, right? Which is all that I want is like to be able to support right now.
Right. Right. And I just want to go back and restate it because it was something I'd received um, like in 2019, and that was to pay it forward. Um, and I tried to do my best over the years, and pretty much about, like a third of everything is is given back.
Mm.
To do when you're on the path we've been on, especially if you're living out of a suitcase and traveling around. But I got works like magic and that are coming to the surface now that have kind of we had flashes of in the past. They're becoming immediate. If I go and put this good energy out with a pure intent equation, and I give, a 30% tip or whatever it is, it's coming back immediately. Like you see it. And it's not just that type of example. It could be in many different ways, but it seems to be another thing that people are talking about this year, which is, wow, the stuff is moving so fast. I don't even know what's coming in. But I kind of know that it's embodied, and when I need it, it'll show up, kind of thing. It's like a whole different thing. We don't even have time to understand it. We don't have time to explain it. We're just like hanging on. It's almost like you're water skiing and you're hanging onto the rope and giving the best you can.
Yeah, I mean, being in the divine flow, I think, is a practice, and water skiing is such a good example of that because you do have to learn how to balance, you do have to learn how
Mm,
to navigate in there, but at the same time, you're working with that crazy speed and that flow, and you're not fully in control of it. You're just riding it.
yeah, yeah. So I've really enjoyed this past hour. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart and the depth of my soul for sharing space with all of us. It's been very interesting and uplifting. Is there anything and please feel free to put up your links or anything in the comments on YouTube, Soul as You One Studios, or Facebook on my page, and X is Todd Medina Soul, so that people can find you. But is there anything that you would like to talk about or anything that you would like to do? I know you have a strong connection with Mother Gaia. I don't know if you want to do like a affirmation, meditation, or just whatever you feel like doing. I don't want to put any pressure on you, but whether you do or you don't, anything you would like to say to kind of conclude this and lead us out of here?
Yeah, the internet has been a little bit sketchy. So you've
Mm,
been popping in and out. So I don't think I'll do a meditation or activation in case it goes a little funky. But I do have a whole free frequency upgrade academy where I teach people this magic piece that I call the sparkle field, which
mm,
is where you reconnect to both the cosmic and earth energies, and you just upgrade your frequency through their energy so you're not efforting and you're receiving. And there
mm,
is so much that comes from us receiving that and not trying to do it ourselves. So, just to loop it back to the conversation about receiving and the frequency of abundance and being supported, I want to let people know that, like, your team has got you. Gaia has got you, and she would like to be way more involved in your life. And she has spoken through me so many times that she
mm,
wants the light workers and healers to be not just like rich, but like have this frequency of abundance, but also have the money. She's like, you guys are going to do such good things with it. So really
mm.
exploring the fact that the consciousness of this planet desires our wealth because of what is possible when we tap
Right,
into that. And I'd
right,
love to invite people if they want to explore some of the ceremonial magic and the activations, and even talking about the nervous system. I do have that in my links that I can share. And yeah, just people knowing that there's more support available that we have yet to tap into. I
right
think
on.
we were so used to doing it alone. We all we're dropped in, little star seeds planted in the ground all alone, and we got used to fighting for it. And like that is the old energy. We now are supposed to be practicing this openness to everything that's already there, and just tuning into the energy of like how much fun could we have now that we are in our power and that we understand more of the journey and what we're here to do. I think becoming
Yeah,
lighter includes not taking all of this so seriously.
exactly. Have a laugh. Have a laugh because there's plenty of tension out there. I put up a lot of posts, and an old friend of mine, it was a joke. It was a humorous one. And and he they became all, literal and like correcting me. And I'm like, man, well, chill out, dude. You know what I mean? Like I put a post up the other day. I said, there's three pills. It's a red pill, a blue pill, and a chill the fuck out pill. Because yeah, I think it's important for us to relax because you talk about the nervous system, and that's part of your forte. And I've had plenty of others I've talked to about it. It's not mine, but I'm very, very aware of my nervous system today, much more than I was, say, 5 or 10 years ago. And it's pretty hard. Well, I'm not a science or a practitioner in that manner, but I think there is a certain energetic blockage. The more nervous, the more anxious that we are. So the more relaxed that we are, which the breathing thing is really good, and just taking whatever time you need to. So yeah, I think it's a really good point. And the way that you explain it from her is being kind of being aware and open to what's there and has always been there, and allow that to unfold and kind of collaborate with us, I guess is what you would say. It is a collaborative energy, a co-creative energy. That is one thing that I think I can pretty much say everybody has said. When we get to this other side, it's not going to be about me, me, me. It's going to be a co-creation in that Trinity energy where we serve ourselves, each other, and the collective in equal degrees. So I feel like this has been a great exchange, and I hope that we can get together sometime down the road. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm not sure if I'll see you on this side, the other side, or both, but I really do enjoy talking to you. And thank you so much for coming in. And please put your links up so people can get in touch with you should they so choose to do so.
Mm. Thank you so much. I've adored this conversation. And I really just also just want to say to everybody, you're doing an amazing job as well. Can we just take a moment to celebrate all of us that we have made it through, that we're still alive, that we have survived, and that there's so much opportunity for us now coming through. Like, speaking of gratitude and celebration, like just take a moment and give yourself a pat on the back for everything that you have done.
Yeah.
And Todd, you have been holding it down for so many years. So thank you for just being willing to have the conversations with people and for showing up and sharing your evolution and shining. Like, so much respect to you. And thank you so much for inviting me. This has been
Mm.
so much fun.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I will catch you later. Peace out, and enjoy yourself at the raves if you decide to go back.